Hello, welcome back to my channel. I am so glad that you clicked on today's video. We are going to be going through all the books that I read in the months of October and November. In October, I didn't really do a reading wrap-up video. I had a lot going on and I was only able to read 3 books that month, and all 3 of those books were in the same reading vlog that I had posted just prior to when I would have filmed a reading wrap-up, and I didn't think it made sense to just reiterate all of my thoughts on those 3 books in another separate video. So I didn't end up doing a reading wrap up that month, but now since we have November over as well, I figured that it would be a perfect time to just lump them all together so that you still know what books I read in October and what my thoughts are on them. I didn't even think I was going to do a reading wrap up for November either, because I thought that I would be filming for Bookmas in November. I didn't actually do any filming and or reading for any Bookmas videos. Yes, I will be doing Bookmas this year. No, it is not December 1st through 12th. It will be the 12th through 24th. So just to clear that up, if you're interested in watching any other smaller booktube creators with their bookmasses, I would highly recommend checking out Stories with Nire. She is a fellow booktuber that I just did a buddy read with, actually with one of these books that is going to be talked about in this reading wrap up. I'll leave her channel linked below in the bio. She's from Puerto Rico, so there's a nice tropical holiday twist on her videos, which I absolutely love, because wouldn't all of us love to be in the tropics right now, but instead I live up in the north where we're getting a foot of snow. With all that aside, now let's get into the actual video, because that's what you guys are all here for, and I know that you're not here to hear me rambling on about random stuff that has nothing to do with reading wrap-ups. So let's start with the books that I read in October. There was only 3 of them, unfortunately, and if you watched my fall reading vlog that I posted in October, then you would already know what these books are. The first book that I read for that reading vlog was Fall I Want by Lyra Parish. I enjoyed this book a lot towards the beginning. This book follows a girl named Autumn who lives in a small town, and a billionaire named Zane who is visiting said small town. His family grew up here when he was younger, and now that his life is getting a little bit more chaotic, he decided to come back home to get away from all of that mess and trauma of his real life. So he ends up meeting our main female character, Autumn, at her job. She works at a small cafe, very cozy fall vibes, and right away they don't hit it off very well. Their first interaction with each other really frustrated me because it didn't quite make sense why they were so mean to each other. There's a certain aspect of destiny slash fate pulling these two together in this book. Autumn has been dreaming about this man for over a decade. She's never met him before, but she's been dreaming about him. So as soon as he walks into the cafe, she recognizes him. And Zane has been told by his sister, I guess his sister is like clairvoyant or something like that. So his sister has been telling him that he's going to meet the love of his life in this small town while he's away. And as soon as he sees Autumn, he knows this is going to be the love of his life, and yet he treats her like garbage. That interaction did not make sense to me whatsoever, but every interaction after that was fine. It confused me quite a bit. I really loved the role that fate and destiny played within this book. However, I do really wish that we focused a little bit more on that and a little bit less on the spice. The spice in this book was overwhelming, and it completely polluted the entire plot line. Would you like to sit up here while I talk about my books?
No. Well, I'll make you feel awkward.
It will make me feel awkward, but it'll also try and force me through my awkwardness. So I'm currently talking about Fall I Want. I don't know, but now I feel awkward. That's okay. It's okay. It's okay. I'll film one thing. Okay. This is gonna be so obvious. Like, this cut is going to be so obvious that something changed, but that's okay, I guess. Okay, so I really like... This is really awkward. Can you do something? Can you go on your phone or like do something instead of just watching me? Hi, Choji. Do you want to be in this video too? Brenda was just making fun of you in the last one. Poor baby. Okay, anyways, I really liked the role that fate and destiny played in this book. However, I think the spice really overshadowed the plot of this book. The plot was lost like halfway through, and it really irked me because I really loved the characters and I loved the plot line, but it was completely lost after the spice was introduced. And I think if you were someone who was going into a book looking for heavy spice, then this would definitely be the book for you, but it just was not what I was looking for at that time. And as a result, I ended up rating this 3.5 stars. But now looking back on it, I think I would lower the rating even more, probably to a 3 stars, because as cozy as this book was, it just was not hitting at that point in time. That's not what I was looking for, and I don't think I would go back and reread this either. It definitely has the small town cozy vibes, but the spice was just overwhelming. So again, if you're looking for a very spicy, cozy fall romance, this will be perfect for you. If not, I would not recommend picking this book up. So the next book that I picked up in that fall reading vlog was People Watching by Hannah Bonam-Young. This is the first book that I've ever read of hers, and I was really looking forward to reading one of her books. However, I went into this book expecting to be let down because of how many negative reviews I've seen of this book. In this book, we're following a girl named Prudence. Prudence lives with her parents, but her mother has Alzheimer's disease, and so she has kind of put her life on hold in order to help take care of her mother. And one day, her dad gives her an ultimatum saying that she needs to start living her life a little bit and doing things for herself, otherwise he's going to have to put the care of her mother into someone else's hands. So of course she does not like this idea at all, so she decides to go out and live a little bit. The way that she decides to start living her life is by having a friends with benefits relationship with our main male character, Milo. And Milo is in town to help his brother who is having another child, and so he's here to help him open the bar that he is setting up. He also has a past relationship with Prudence's mother. She was a teacher who had a really big impact on his life, apparently, so he has a really big soft spot for her, and so he also helps take care of Prudence's mom and watch her sometimes while this friends with benefits relationship is going on. Now, the negative feedback that I heard about this book is directly pertaining to the friends with benefits relationship that Milo and Prudence have, specifically the body count of him versus her. And all I have to say to that is we knew going into this book, if you read the blurb, that that is what this book is about. And if you don't like that aspect, it's literally mentioned one time in this book for a split second, and then we never focus on it again. It's not like it's something that we are constantly bringing up. It's not something that is heavily focused on. And even the friends with benefits plotline is not heavily focused on either. Obviously, it is a part of the book and it does happen throughout the storyline, but it's not something that we directly focus on over and over again. It's not like the focus of the book. What I really loved so much about this story is our focus on how Alzheimer's directly affects those who have it and also those who know somebody or are close to someone who has Alzheimer's disease. It's really sad to see someone that you care about so much lose all of their memories of you when you still hold all of those cherished memories with them. So I feel like that was way more important than the friends with benefits plotline. That was just something that was a little bit more focused on is the Alzheimer's plotline, and it was a very significant part of the story, and I really loved it. I loved how we went about showing Alzheimer's and how it affects everybody. I just really loved this story, and more than that, I really loved the dynamic between Prudence and Milo as well, because they're such strong characters on their own, but I feel like together they're even stronger, and I really appreciate that in a story when two characters can build each other up rather than just coexisting. So overall, I really loved this book. I didn't have any negative thoughts about it. It was almost perfect. It just didn't give that 5-star feeling. So I did end up rating this 4.5 stars, but it is absolutely hands down an amazing book, and I would definitely recommend reading it. And I absolutely plan on reading more Hannah Bonam-Young books because this was beautifully written. The last book that I read in October and the last book that I read for the fall reading vlog was Soul Searching by Lyla Sage. In this book, we're following a girl named Collins who moves back home to a small town in, where does she go? Sweetwater Peak, Wyoming. So she moves back home to this small town because her family's business is under threat. Someone is trying to buy that business from them, and so she comes back home to help out, I guess. And she also loses her job, but her parents don't know this. Her sister helps her out by finding a place for her to stay. She ends up sharing an apartment with Brady Cooper, who also offers her a kind of like a job so that she can stay there and kind of work for the place that she's living in. And this apartment is right above his carpentry shop. So she works there with him. The interesting thing about Collins though is that she can see ghosts, and Brady does not know this when she moves in. So he just sees her talking to herself, or he sees weird things happening and he thinks she's crazy. He genuinely thinks like she is off her rocker, something is wrong with her. her. Over time, obviously, they get to know each other. She is going through something and he ends up helping her through it as well, which I really liked about this story. I loved the tension between our two characters as opposed to Fall I Want, where the spice was too much and overwhelming. This one was just right. There wasn't too much of it. So I really did like that about the story. However, I just didn't feel super connected to these characters. It was interesting and it was a fun read, but it wasn't like the best. So for that reason, I think I ended up rating this a 4 stars or a 3.5 stars. I'm not sure. But at this point in time, I would probably end up rating it 3.5 stars. Now we're getting into the books that I finished reading in November. We ended up finishing a book from the What Moves the Dead series from Kingfisher. I don't actually own the physical copy of this book, but it is called What Stalks the Deep. I was anticipating this book for a really long time because I absolutely adored the other 2 books in her series. I don't know what this series is called, but let me see. I don't even know if this is technically a series or if they're just like interconnected standalones. Either way, these 2 books are also in the same world as What Stalks the Deep, and I absolutely adored these. I am not someone who likes to read scary or thrilling books, but these were just the right amount of uncomfortable and disturbing that I was able to get through them. I did have a couple nightmares about the fungi that is mentioned over and over again in these stories, but that is besides the point. I still had a really great time reading these ones, so I was really looking forward to reading What Stalks the Deep by T. Kingfisher. Unfortunately, this book did not give off the same vibes as these 2 books did. I think the thing that I loved most about these is the fungus that was introduced. It was just so odd and so disturbing. And in this book, it wasn't as disturbing. As crazy as that might sound, I was looking forward to reading the uncomfortable, disturbing aspects of another T. Kingfisher book, and this one did not have that. I think the scariest part about this book was the overwhelming sense of claustrophobia that you feel while reading it, because this book does take place in a coal mine. You're kind of doing like cave diving stuff. You do feel very claustrophobic while reading this book, which T. Kingfisher does an amazing job of portraying. She makes you feel so uncomfortable in these situations, and she did a great job of making me feel absolutely claustrophobic. But the story overall was really slow paced. The other 2 books are a little bit slower as well, but I feel like this was overwhelmingly slow, and I had to push myself through actually reading it, despite it only being 175 pages, I believe. I didn't even mention what this book is about, but basically we're following one of the other main characters from these stories. His cousin goes into the coal mine because he's supposed to inherit it and he wants to see if it's worth anything, so he goes to explore it, and he ends up sending a letter back to the main character telling him that he found something really weird, and the main character recognizes something that he saw in these other 2 books. So he enlists the help of somebody who helped him prior to go explore this coal mine and figure out if it was the same thing that they had just thought that they defeated, to see if it came back. And alas, it was something completely different. Unfortunately, it just wasn't the same. It didn't feel the same. The delivery of the story wasn't as fun to read. It wasn't keeping me on my toes like these 2 books did. I genuinely felt like I couldn't put down the book until I finished because I needed to know what was happening, because I just felt so uncomfortable and I just needed to know and make sure everything ended up okay. And it wasn't the same with this book. It just felt so much slower. As a result, I just didn't really love it. So I think I ended up rating it 3.5 stars, but I think I would also at this point in time end up lowering that rating to probably 3 stars. Unfortunately, I really feel so terrible because I loved these books so much, and I would absolutely reread them over and over and over again. And this one, I just wouldn't. It just wasn't the same. The next book that I finished in November was also a book that I do not own physically, Babel by R.F. Kuang. This book I ended up reading as a buddy read with Stories with Nire. So again, if you have not seen her channel, definitely go check it out. It will be linked below. She is doing Bookmas right now, so absolutely go and check out the videos that she's posting. It's every single day, and I am having a great time watching them. With that aside, we ended up buddy reading Babel together. And this is a story that I have been wanting to read for a very, very long time. Ever since it came out, I just love the dark academia theme in books. I feel like I just resonate so much more with dark academia books. I love them. I was really looking forward to reading this, and honestly, I was not disappointed. This book was so good. So essentially, we're following a kid named Richard. I believe that's his name. We're following a kid who was uprooted from his life in China. His family all around him was dying, and so he ends up just being uprooted by this complete and total stranger and taken over to Europe. And this stranger ends up raising him to learn languages so that he can go to the School of Oxford, and specifically the Babel School of Language. I don't know if that's like the right terminology for that, but he was raised by this stranger so that he could be accepted and admitted into this School of Languages, the Tower of Babel. The interesting thing about this book is that there's some magical realism involved in it, where we have these silver bars that can do magical things. They can enhance things, they can elicit emotions, they can be set off like bombs. Like, there are so many different uses for these silver bars, but nobody really knows how they work except for people who work in the Tower of Babel, because these silver bars require people who are fluent in multiple languages in order to use them. That is a whole nother aspect of the story. Like, I don't even want to get into that. It is really complicated, really complex, way above my brain power, so I don't even want to get into it. But overall, the story is really interesting. There is a lot of political issues that we're dealing with in this story as well. I loved how mesmerizing R.F. Kuang's writing is. She just has so many great quotable moments within these books that I just was constantly highlighting. I had hundreds of highlights within this book, and I was just sending them all over to Nire. We constantly had something to discuss, and we had theories, and it was just such a compelling book. However, with that being said, the last like 25% of the book made zero sense to me. I feel like the actions of Richard did not really align with the motivations that he had. It just didn't quite make sense because the way he was acting was not in line with what he was trying to accomplish. It didn't make sense. And then the ending of the book I also really disliked because I felt like it was a very open-ended, choose your own ending type of conclusion to the story. And I don't like when a book ends like that. I just feel like there was so much more to the story that could have been told, and for that reason the ending just really disappointed me. Not enough to significantly impact the rating, but it was enough to take it from a 5-star read to probably a 4.5 star rating. Honestly, I think I feel good settling on probably a 4.25. That is like the perfect rating for that book, because it's not low enough to be 4 stars, but it's also not quite high enough to be a 4.5 stars. The ending of that book just didn't quite make sense for the rest of the story, and unfortunately it's not a 5-star read because of that. But I still had a wonderful time reading it, and I absolutely want to pick up more books by R.F. Kuang. If she has that beautiful, eloquent way of writing in all of her stories, sign me up. I am absolutely here for every single one of her books. I need to read the rest of them. Find me reading more of her books in 2026. That is going to be a goal of mine, is to read her backlog, because I absolutely love her writing. After finishing Babel, I did want to stay within the dark academia realm because I was just absolutely in love with it. I love being able to annotate it and bookmark it and everything that comes along with literarily analyzing a book, which I don't typically absolutely love. I have to be in the mood for it, and I feel like right now I'm absolutely in the mood to be analyzing and annotating books. I decided to pick up The Secret History by Donna Tartt, and let me tell you, I was absolutely not disappointed in this book at all. Basically, we're following a group of students who are taking this private Greek class. The teacher or the professor has to choose who is in that class. So there's only 5 students that were admitted, and he ends up admitting this student named Richard, who moved all the way across the country to go to this school. I know there's a theme with these dark academia books and the name Richard, but Richard is accepted into this private Greek society, I want to call it. At the very beginning of the book, we're told that one of these students dies, but we're not told exactly why or how he dies. It's made to seem like it was a murder. So in this story, we're following these students up to this specific event, and we're trying to unravel the mystery of why it happened. This book was amazingly written. I was totally enthralled the entire way through, obviously by how much I had annotated this book. I loved it. Like, there were so many points in time where I was underlining, I was making post-it notes in here so I could write more. I became obsessed with this book. One of the things that I loved most about it is how much it challenges your moral compass. There were so many points in time in this book where I was genuinely questioning myself on whether I would follow these specific actions or if I would do something different in this situation. It basically makes you question how far you would go for your friends. That's really all I can say without giving too much away. That part of this book was genuinely so well done. I am obsessed with this book. I love it. I couldn't talk more highly of it, and I will be doing a reread of this and probably annotating even more of it. I feel like a reread of this would make me think much differently than the first initial time through, because now at the very end of the story we have information and thoughts that we didn't have at the beginning. I don't know. I just think that a reread of this would be so great because I would get more information that I didn't catch the first time through. And I think it's going to be that way no matter how many times I read it through. I will always have something new to catch. And I'm so excited to say that I think those are all signs of a 5-star book. Absolutely 100% deserving of 5 stars is this story right here. I highly recommend that you would pick this one up as well. I could talk about this forever and ever, and I really want somebody to talk about this book with. So please, if you have read this book, let me know down in the comments what you thought of it as well, because I love it so much. Now, last but certainly not least is If It Makes You Happy by Julie Olivia. If we're being technical, I did finish the last 50 pages of this book on December 1st. However, the rest of the book was read within November. I decided that this can just be lumped into my November reads because the vast majority of this book was read in November. In this story, we're following a girl named Michelle who is recently divorced, and she has to move back to this small town that her mother owned a bed and breakfast in because her mother just recently passed away. And the person who lives right next to this bed and breakfast is named Cliff, who was also recently divorced, but 2 years ago rather than 2 months ago. So he's been divorced a little bit longer than she has. He also has 2 children, and so he is a single dad, but he still has contact with his ex-wife, obviously, because he has children with her. So Michelle is trying to navigate her recent divorce, and she's also trying to take over this new business while also grieving the fact that she lost her mother. It's a very interesting dynamic, but I think this story did it so well. The characters in this story were absolutely amazing for each other. I have no issues with either one of them. Michelle was a little bit mean at times, and just like, I feel like she had no emotions at some points, and she just didn't understand like social cues. She would think that she was being nice to people and she just wasn't. Being divorced and losing a parent, that's got to be hard on a person, so I can't really fault her for that, and I wouldn't really consider that to be an issue within the story. Cliff was just this very energetic, enigmatic man who attracted everybody. He was just a beacon of light, or like a ray of sunshine. So everybody that he was around, he just lit up their day. He would have them smiling within moments. And Cliff and Michelle's friendship that they form is just so caring. It's just not based on anything else like physical. You don't see anything physical happen until the very end of the book, and even then it is nothing like Fall I Want where it's overwhelming. There are so many points in time where something may happen but you're not even shown it. It's just closed door. Don't get me wrong, there still is some intimate scenes in here, so still be wary of that. It is not a book for children. I feel like even for someone who doesn't like spice that much, this would still be a really good book because it's just not very present. It's not like focused on within this story. And even as a person who may really like spice in their books, this is still perfect because you still have that tension between the two people, even though it's not explicitly described and we're not going into details. Every page is not a spice scene. I still think that it was still very well written. The tension between these two is palpable. You can absolutely feel the connection between them, and I just feel like they were absolutely perfect for each other. And if you're looking for a really fun fall romance, this is absolutely worth the time to read. Definitely pick this one up. I know that when I had first heard about this book, I hadn't seen anything negative about it. Still to this day, I haven't heard a single negative review of this book, and there's a reason for it. It's just a very, very well-written romance book. So definitely worth your time, definitely worth reading within the fall time because it is very fall. The fall vibes are absolutely there. So yeah, that is the last book that I actually finished reading. I do want to make a note that I did read about 30% of The Outsider by Stephen King. Don't get me wrong, this book is really interesting, but I just didn't find myself interested enough to continue reading it. I want to know what happens, like I want to know the ending of this story, but I just don't feel like I care enough to actually keep reading it. So maybe next year I'll give it another shot, but for right now I did decide to DNF it. I was probably just under 200 pages in and I didn't care enough, so I didn't want to push myself through it, especially because it's the holidays and I want to read more upbeat stories. I don't really feel like reading anything scary or spooky right now, so this just was not the vibes, and so I did DNF it, but it is not going to be considered a book that I read. I don't do that. I am just somebody who cannot say that I finished a book if I didn't actually finish it, so this won't be going onto my reading goal at all, nor will I be rating it, but I did just want to mention it in this video because I did read a significant portion of it. And I do think that was also done in October. I tried to do like a spooky horror books for Halloween video. It just wasn't happening. I'm just not a horror book person. Maybe I'll give it another shot next year, but again, I'm just not a horror book person. So if you have any horror books that you would recommend to someone who doesn't like scary things, definitely let me know in the comments and I might give them a shot next year. So with that being said, I did end up reading a total of 7 books in the months of October and November. Honestly, I'm not disappointed in myself. I feel like November was a really great reading month. I ended up reading 4 books total in November, and yeah, I can't be mad at myself. I had a lot going on in October and November. There was just so much happening in my life, so I couldn't really bring myself to read, nor could I bring myself to even film stuff. So unfortunately, all the books that I read in November aren't even a part of any reading vlogs that I had. This is probably the only video that you'll hear me actually talking about them unless I reread them in the future. That's all I had for this video. If you're interested in watching my Bookmas videos that will be starting on December 12th, then definitely hit the notifications button below, subscribe, like, comment on this video, do all of those great things. It is the holiday season, so spread some holiday cheer. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful holiday season, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.